Between sleep and waking. Introduction. Hello. I'm glad you're here. Before we begin, I want you to get comfortable. Let your body settle into wherever you are. Let the weight of the day fall away. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Let the rain create a soft wall between you and everything else. What you're about to hear are two accounts. Two experiences that exist in that strange space between the explainable and the impossible. They're told calmly because panic doesn't help us understand. Fear doesn't illuminate. Sometimes the most disturbing truths are the ones delivered quietly. These stories came to me from people who needed to share them, who carried them alone for too long, who found that speaking the words somehow made the weight more bearable. I've changed details to protect them, but the core of what happened, the essence of their experience, that remains exactly as they told it. The first story is about a woman who worked night shifts at a place where time didn't quite work the way it should, where clocks ran but hours disappeared, where she began to suspect that what she thought were 8-hour shifts were something else entirely. The second is about a man who bought a house and slowly realized he wasn't the only one living there, that the previous owner had left something behind, something that didn't show up on inspections, something that existed just outside the range of normal perception. Both stories are quiet. Both unfold slowly. Both will stay with you longer than you might expect. So let the rain continue. Let your breathing slow. And let's begin with the first account. With the woman who lost time in a place where time itself seemed negotiable. Story 1. The Overnight Observer. Have you ever arrived at work and left work and realized you remember nothing in between? She took the job because she needed money and the hours didn't matter to her. Overnight. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monitoring security feeds for a data storage facility. She'd be alone. She'd watch screens. She'd log anything unusual. Simple work. Quiet work. Perfect for someone who didn't sleep well anyway. The facility was outside the city. 20-minute drive through industrial areas and empty lots. The building itself was unmarked. Grey concrete. No windows. A single door with a keycard reader. Inside was a lobby. A desk. A hallway leading to server rooms she'd never need to enter. And a small monitoring station where she'd spend her nights. Her first shift started on a Monday. She arrived at 10:50. Parked in the empty lot. Let herself in. The previous shift worker was already leaving. A man maybe 60. He nodded. Handed her a clipboard. Said nothing. Left. She sat at the monitoring station. For screens showing camera feeds. Hallways. Server room doors. The parking lot. Everything still. Everything quiet. A logbook sat beside her. She was supposed to note any alerts. Any unusual activity. Any visitors. There were never visitors. The first night passed slowly. She watched the screens. Nothing moved. The feeds were so still they looked like photographs. She checked the timestamp in the corner. It was running. Seconds ticking forward. But nothing in the image changed. No shadows shifting. No dust in the air. Just perfect stillness. At 7 a.m. her relief arrived. Same man. Same nod. She gathered her things. Drove home. Slept through the day. Returned that night. This pattern continued for a week. She'd arrive. Sit. Watch unchanging screens. Leave. The work was exactly as advertised. Boring. Easy. Peaceful in its own way. She started bringing books. Reading between glances at the monitors. Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever changed. Then on her 8th shift she noticed something. A small thing. Easily dismissed. The clock on the wall showed 11:15 when she arrived. She settled in. Opened her book. Read for what felt like maybe 30 minutes. Glanced at the clock. It showed 11:47. She looked at her watch. 11:47. Time was passing normally. She went back to reading. The next time she looked up it was 6:53 a.m. Almost end of shift. She stared at the clock. At her watch. Both showed the same time. But that was impossible. She'd only read for what felt like another 30 minutes. An hour at most. Not 7 hours. Not nearly her entire shift. She checked the logbook. She'd made entries. Temperature readings logged every hour. She recognized her handwriting. But she didn't remember writing them. Didn't remember checking the temperature gauges. Didn't remember anything between 11:47 and 6:53. The relief worker arrived. She asked him a question before he could leave. Asked if he ever felt like the nights went by strangely. Like time moved different here. He looked at her for a long moment. Then said every night goes by the same. 8 hours. Same as anywhere. But his eyes said something else. Something that made her uneasy. Like he knew what she was asking. Like he'd experienced it too. Like he was lying for reasons she didn't understand. That day she couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop thinking about those missing hours. She'd lost time. 7 hours. Just gone. Vanished while she sat in that room doing what? She had no memory. No sense of what happened. Just a gap. A void where her shift should have been. She considered quitting. But she needed the job. Needed the money. And maybe it was nothing. Maybe she'd fallen asleep. Microsleep. Sitting there with eyes open. Going through motions automatically. Writing in the log without conscious thought. It happened to people. Night shift workers especially. The brain doing tasks while consciousness drifted. She returned that night determined to stay aware. To track every hour. Every minute. To not let time slip away again. She brought coffee. Made a point to check the clock constantly. Noted each minute passing. Kept herself alert. Present. Conscious. 11:15. She noted it. Wrote it down. Watched the screens. Nothing moving. Still as always. 11:16. Still watching. Still aware. Still present. 11:17. The seconds ticking. Her eyes on the clock. On her watch. Matching. Synchronized. 11:18. Everything normal. Everything tracked. Then she blinked and it was 6:49 a.m. 7.5 hours gone. Vanished in what felt like a blink. One moment it was 11:18. The next moment dawn was approaching. And between those moments, nothing. No memory. No sense of time. Just discontinuity. Just a jump from night to morning with nothing in between. She looked at the logbook. Entries in her handwriting. Every hour. Every temperature reading. Every required check. All documented. All completed. By her. While she was. Where? Doing what? Experiencing what? She started shaking. This wasn't microsleep. This wasn't drifting. This was something else. Something wrong with this place. With this building. With the space she occupied for 8 hours every night. Something that took time. Took consciousness. Took her experience of existing and replaced it with nothing. She wanted to leave. Wanted to quit immediately. But something stopped her. Some need to understand. To know what was happening to her. To catch herself in the act of whatever she was doing during those lost hours. The next night she brought her phone. Set it to record video. Pointed it at herself. At the desk. At the screens. Let it run. If she was doing something. If something was happening. The phone would capture it. Would show her what she couldn't remember. She started recording at 11:10. Watched herself in the phone screen. Sitting there. Normal. Present. Aware. She watched the timestamp. 11:11. 11:12. 11:13. Everything recording. Everything documented. She looked away from the phone for just a moment. Glanced at the security monitors. When she looked back at her phone it was 6:51 a.m. The recording had stopped. Battery dead. She grabbed the phone. Hands trembling. Checked the video file. It showed 7 hours and 41 minutes. The entire shift captured. She started watching. Skipping ahead. Looking for. Anything. Any clue to what happened. What she saw made her feel sick. The video showed her sitting at the desk, perfectly still, not moving, not blinking, for 7 hours and 41 minutes. Just frozen, staring at nothing, a statue, while the timestamp counted forward, while the background showed the screens, showed the feeds, showed everything continuing normally around her while she sat motionless, absent, gone somewhere the camera couldn't follow. Except every hour on the hour she would move, would stand, would walk to the temperature gauge, would check it, would write in the logbook, then return to her seat, sit, and freeze again. All of this happening with her eyes open but empty, her movements mechanical, automatic, like watching a machine, like watching something that looked like her but wasn't her, wasn't conscious, wasn't aware. She watched herself do this 7 times, 7 hourly checks, 7 moments of movement, and between them, nothing, just stillness, just absence, just a body sitting in a chair while the real she, while her consciousness was somewhere else. She couldn't watch anymore, deleted the video, couldn't bear to see herself like that, couldn't accept what it meant. That every shift, every night, she went somewhere, became something else, lost herself for 8 hours and came back with no memory, no awareness, no understanding of what she'd been, what she'd done, where she'd gone. She quit the next day, called, left a message, said she couldn't continue, personal reasons, wouldn't be returning, apologized for no notice. No one called her back. No one asked why. Her final paycheck arrived in the mail. Included payment for all shifts worked, including the one she'd recorded, the one where she'd sat frozen, the one where she hadn't really been there at all. She tried to move on, tried to forget, found a different job, day shift, coffee shop, normal hours, normal time, where minutes felt like minutes, where she remembered everything, where she stayed herself from clock in to clock out. But sometimes at night, when she's trying to sleep, she wonders where she went during those shifts, where her consciousness traveled while her body sat frozen in that monitoring station, what she experienced that left no memory, no trace, no evidence except video of an empty shell performing required tasks. And she wonders if it's still happening. If somewhere inside her there's still a part that leaves, that goes to that other place, that experiences things she'll never remember, that lives hours or days or years in spaces adjacent to her normal life, returning only to move her body through required motions, to maintain the appearance of presence while the real her, the aware her, the conscious her, is somewhere else entirely. She wonders if we all do this, if we all have gaps, moments we don't remember, times we're not really present, if consciousness is more fragile than we think, more temporary, more conditional, if we slip in and out of ourselves constantly, losing time, losing awareness, becoming automatons going through motions while our real selves are where, doing what, experiencing what, in places we can't access, can't remember, can't prove existed. She doesn't know, can't know, has no way to verify, no way to test, no way to catch herself in the act of leaving, because when she's gone completely, and when she returns, she has no memory of being away. All she has is the certainty that she lost time, that hours vanished, that she sat in that building and went somewhere else while her body remained, while her hands wrote logs, while her eyes stayed open but empty, while something that looked like her but wasn't her performed her job with mechanical precision. And the question that haunts her, the question she can't answer, is what happens if she leaves and doesn't come back? If one day she goes to that other place, that other state, that other existence, and something keeps her there, prevents her return, leaves her body sitting frozen forever, eyes open, breath slow, Heart beating, but no one home. No consciousness. No awareness. Just an empty vessel waiting for an occupant who's never coming back. She checks herself constantly now. Asks herself if she's present. If she's real. If this moment is hers, or if she's already gone. Already absent. Already somewhere else while something else moves her body. Speaks with her voice. Lives her life without her. She can't know. Can never know. Because the one thing she learned in that monitoring station, the one truth she carries, is that you can't trust your own continuity. Can't trust that the you who started this moment is the you who's finishing it. Can't trust that consciousness doesn't slip, doesn't fade, doesn't leave gaps, doesn't strand you in other places while life continues without you. Time moves, clocks tick, hours pass, but where are you during those hours? Really? Are you here? Are you present? Are you aware? Or are you somewhere else? Somewhere you'll never remember. Somewhere you go every night, every shift, every moment you're not paying attention. And when you come back, when you return, when you think you've been here all along, how do you know? How can you be certain? What proof do you have that you didn't just arrive, just returned, just slipped back into a body that's been moving without you, that's been living your life, speaking your words, going through your motions, while the real you, the aware you, was absent, was gone, was experiencing things you'll never remember in places you'll never find. She doesn't know, and neither do you. And maybe that's what makes it so terrifying. Not the possibility that it happened to her, but the certainty that it could be happening to anyone, to everyone, to you, right now, this moment. Are you really here? Or did you just arrive? Just return? Just slide back into awareness with false memories of continuity, with manufactured sense of having been present? While the truth, the real truth, is that you've been gone, been absent, been somewhere else entirely, and you'll never know, can never know, because memory is the only evidence, and memory can be written, can be fabricated, can be inserted whole into a consciousness that just returned from somewhere else, somewhere it can't remember, somewhere it goes every time it's not paying attention. The monitoring station still operates, still employs overnight workers, still pays people to sit in that room, to watch unchanging screens, to log temperatures, to document nothing happening. And every night, every shift, those workers sit, and freeze, and go somewhere else, and come back, and never know, never remember, never understand that they've lost 8 hours, lost themselves, lost the time they thought they lived. Because that's what that place does. What that building contains. A gap. A void. A space where time runs but consciousness doesn't. Where bodies remain but minds depart. Where 8 hours vanish into nothing. Into nowhere. Into experiences that leave no trace. No memory. No proof they ever happened. She escaped. She got out. She works somewhere else now. Somewhere where time makes sense. Where she remembers her shifts. Where she stays present. Stays aware. Stays herself from beginning to end. But she knows. Knows she was gone. Knows she lost time. Knows that somewhere, in some space she can't access, she spent dozens of hours. Lived experiences she'll never recall. Existed in a state she can't describe because she wasn't conscious of it. Wasn't present for it. Wasn't there even though she was. And that knowledge, that certainty of absence, of discontinuity, of time lost and self misplaced, that stays with her, that haunts her, that makes her question every moment, every hour, every shift of awareness. Because once you know you can leave, once you know consciousness isn't constant, once you know you can lose yourself and return with no memory, you never feel secure again, never feel anchored, never feel certain that this moment, this awareness, this sense of being you, is real, is continuous, is trustworthy, You could be gone right now. Could be absent. Could be somewhere else while something that isn't you reads these words, processes these thoughts, maintains the fiction of presence. And you'd never know, would never suspect, would never question, because when you return, when you slip back, everything will seem continuous, seem unbroken, seem normal. But it won't be. It isn't. It never is. Because we're all leaving, all going somewhere, all losing time we'll never remember, in places we'll never find, experiencing things that leave no trace except the certainty, the deep unshakable certainty, that we've been gone, been absent, been somewhere other than here, and we're never, ever, truly present. Transition. Let the rain wash that away for a moment. Breathe. The next story is different. It's about a space, a house, and what lives in houses after people leave. What gets left behind. Not belongings, not furniture, something else. Something that doesn't show up when you tour the property. Something that only reveals itself slowly, over weeks, over months, until you realize you're not alone. You've never been alone. And the house has been waiting for you to understand. Let's continue. Story 2, The Tenant Below. Have you ever heard sounds in your house that seem to come from a room that doesn't exist? He bought the house in March. Small. 2-bedroom. Built in the 50s. It needed work but the price was right. The inspection showed normal issues. Old plumbing. Dated electrical. Roof had maybe 5 years left. Nothing serious. Nothing that would stop the sale. The previous owner had died. Estate sale. The family just wanted it sold quickly. They'd already removed personal items, cleaned it out, left it empty, ready for new occupancy. He moved in on a Saturday, brought his furniture, his boxes, his life, started making the place his. The house had a strange layout. The 2 bedrooms were on the main floor. Kitchen, living room, bathroom, all standard. But there was a basement. Unfinished. Concrete floor. Stone foundation. Storage space. He didn't plan to use it much. Just for boxes. Seasonal items. Things he didn't need regular access to. The basement stairs were in the kitchen. A door that opened to wooden steps leading down. The door was old. Heavy. It didn't quite fit the frame anymore. Stuck when you tried to close it. He left it propped open. No reason to close it. No reason to hide stairs to an empty basement. The first week was normal. Unpacking. Arranging furniture. Getting familiar with the space. Learning the sounds. The creaks. The settling. Old houses made noise. He expected that. Accepted it. Didn't think much of the occasional groan. The random crack. The soft sounds that came from walls and floors as temperatures changed. But on the 8th night he heard something different. He was in bed, almost asleep, and he heard footsteps. Below him, in the basement. Slow, deliberate, walking across the concrete floor. He sat up, listened. The footsteps continued. Someone was down there. Someone had broken in, entered through. Through what? The basement had no door, no windows, just the stairs from the kitchen. He would have heard someone come down them. He got up quietly, grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, walked to the kitchen. The basement door was still propped open. The stairs descended into darkness. He shone his light down. Concrete floor visible at the bottom. Empty. No one there. The footsteps had stopped. He stood at the top of the stairs, listening. Nothing. Just silence. Just the ambient sounds of the house. He went down. Slowly. Checking corners. Checking behind the furnace. Behind stacked boxes. Nothing. No one. The basement was empty. Undisturbed. He went back upstairs. Told himself it was pipes. Or the house settling. Or sound carrying strangely through old construction. Nothing to worry about. Normal old house behavior. But 3 nights later he heard it again. Same time. Around 2 a.m. Footsteps in the basement. Walking. Pacing. He didn't investigate this time. Just listened. They continued for maybe 10 minutes. Then stopped. Silence returning. This pattern repeated. Every few nights. Sometimes every night. Footsteps in the basement. Always around 2 a.m. Always the same pace. The same route. Like someone walking a familiar path. Doing rounds. Checking something. He started sleeping with headphones. White noise. Anything to block out the sounds. But even through the noise he could feel it. Feel the vibration. The subtle tremor of footsteps through the floor. Through the foundation. Through the structure of the house itself. He called a contractor. Asked if there could be animals. Raccoons. Possums. Something living in the basement. Making noise. The contractor checked. Found nothing. No signs of animals. No droppings. No damage. No entry points. The basement was sealed. Empty. Nothing living there. But the footsteps continued. He started recording them. Setting his phone in the basement. Letting it capture audio overnight. When he played it back he could hear them. Clear. Distinct. Footsteps on concrete. Walking. Stopping. Walking again. He showed the recording to a friend. Asked what they heard. The friend listened. Said it sounded like footsteps. Asked if he had a tenant. A renter. Someone living below. He said no. The house was single family. No basement apartment. No tenant. Just him. The friend suggested he was hearing his own footsteps from above. Sound traveling through the house. Creating echoes. He knew that wasn't it. He knew what direction sound came from. And these footsteps came from below. Always below. From the basement where no one should be. Where no one was. Where nothing was except empty space and concrete and his stored boxes. He tried to ignore it. Tried to accept it as one of those unexplained things old houses do. But it got worse. The footsteps became more frequent. Every night. Multiple times per night. And they started coming closer. Started climbing the stairs. He could hear them on the wooden steps. Creaking. Rising. Getting closer to the kitchen. To the main floor. To where he was. But they never emerged. Never reached the top. Would climb maybe halfway. Then stop. Then descend again. Back to the basement. Back to pacing. Back to whatever routine they followed. He started keeping the basement door closed. Fighting with it. Forcing it into the frame. Wedging it. Anything to create a barrier. To keep whatever was down there. But the door wouldn't stay closed. Would pop open. The latch wouldn't catch. The frame too warped. Too old. Too misaligned. So the door stood open. And the footsteps continued. And he tried to live with it. Tried to adapt. Tried to tell himself it didn't matter. It was just sound. Just vibration. Nothing that could hurt him. Nothing real. Then one night he saw it. Saw them. He was in the kitchen. Getting water. It was late. Maybe 3 a.m. He glanced at the basement door. At the stairs descending into darkness. And someone was there. On the stairs. Halfway up. Just standing. Facing him. He couldn't see details. Just a shape. A silhouette. Dark against darker. Human-sized. Human-shaped. But wrong somehow. Proportions slightly off. Posture unnatural. Just standing there. On his basement stairs. In his house. Looking at him. He turned on the kitchen light. The stairs were empty. No one there. No shape. No silhouette. Just wooden steps and concrete and emptiness. But he'd seen it. Clearly. Undeniably. For just a moment before the light. Someone had been there. Someone had been standing on his basement stairs. Watching him. Waiting. He didn't sleep that night. Sat in his living room, lights on, watching the basement door, watching for movement, for any sign. Nothing appeared, but he could hear them. The footsteps, below, constant now, pacing, walking, never stopping, like something agitated, like something aware it had been seen. In the morning he contacted the family who'd sold him the house, asked about the previous owner, about how they died, about anything unusual. The family was reluctant, said it was a private matter, but eventually they told him. The previous owner had died in the basement. They'd fallen down the stairs. Broken neck. Instant death. They'd been down there often. Used the basement as a workshop. Spent hours there. Working. Creating. Living half their life in that unfinished space. And they'd been found at the bottom of the stairs. Days after falling. No one checking on them. No one knowing. Just lying there. Alone. In the dark. On the cold concrete. 4 days. He thanked them. Hung up. Sat with this information. Someone had died where he lived. In his basement. On his stairs. That wasn't disclosed. Wasn't required to be disclosed. Death in a home doesn't affect its value legally. Doesn't need to be mentioned. But it explained things. Explained the footsteps. Explained the presence. Explained why something remained. Why someone who'd spent so much time in that basement might stay there. Might continue their routine. Might keep walking. Keep working. Keep existing in the space they'd occupied in life. He tried to be understanding. Tried to coexist. Tried to tell himself it was fine. They weren't hurting him. Just making noise. Just being there. Just continuing whatever they'd always done. He could live with that. Could adapt. Could share the space. But it didn't stop with footsteps. Things started moving. He'd leave something on the kitchen counter. Come back. It would be moved. Not far. Just slightly. Just enough to notice. Just enough to know someone else had touched it. Had moved it. Had interacted with his space. Objects from the basement started appearing upstairs. Tools he didn't own. Old tools. Rusty. Worn. Sitting on his kitchen table. On his counters. Like they'd been brought up. Like someone was still working. Still using them. Still treating the house as their workshop. He'd take them back downstairs. Put them away. Next day they'd be back. Arranged carefully. Deliberately. Like someone was insisting. Like someone was saying, this is my space. These are my tools. This is my house. You're the guest. You're the intruder. You're the one who doesn't belong. He thought about leaving. About selling. About finding somewhere else. But he'd just bought this place. Just invested. Just committed. He couldn't afford to move. Couldn't afford to take a loss. Had to stay. Had to find a way to live with this. So he tried talking. Tried speaking to the empty basement. Tried saying he understood. He respected their space. He wasn't trying to replace them. Wasn't trying to erase them. Just wanted to share. Just wanted to coexist. Just wanted peace. The footsteps stopped for 3 days. Complete silence. He thought maybe it worked. Maybe they heard. Maybe they understood. Maybe they were giving him space. Giving him acceptance. Then on the 4th day he came home from work and every door in the house was open. Every cabinet. Every closet. Every drawer. All standing wide. Like something had searched. Like something had gone through everything. Looking for. What? What were they looking for? And on his bed, arranged carefully, were photographs. Old photographs. Of the previous owner. In the basement. Working. Smiling. Alive. Pictures the family must have missed. Must have left behind. Must have overlooked when cleaning out. But he hadn't found them. Hadn't known they existed. So who arranged them? Who brought them up? Who laid them on his bed like a message? Like a reminder? like a claim. He gathered the photos, brought them to the basement, left them on a shelf, said out loud that he understood, that he saw them, that he acknowledged their presence, that he would respect their space, would leave the basement alone, would let them have it. The doors closed, the drawers closed, the cabinets closed, all of them, simultaneously. He heard them throughout the house. Click, 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 everything shutting, everything sealing, everything returning to closed positions. And the footsteps resumed, but different now, calmer, slower, less agitated, like something settled, like an agreement reached, like boundaries established. He lives there still, has for 3 years now. The footsteps continue every night. The tools still appear sometimes. The presence remains. But they've reached an understanding. He stays upstairs. They stay below. He doesn't use the basement. Doesn't go down except when absolutely necessary. Doesn't disturb what's there. And in return they mostly leave him alone. Mostly stay in their space. Mostly continue their routine without interference. Without intrusion. Without crossing too far into his life. But sometimes, late at night, when he's lying in bed, he hears them on the stairs, climbing, getting closer, stopping just outside his door, just on the other side, just barely present, like they're checking, like they're making sure he's still there, still respecting the agreement, still maintaining boundaries. And he lies very still, pretends to be asleep, pretends not to notice, pretends not to hear the breathing, the waiting, the presence just beyond his door. Eventually they leave, descend again, return to the basement, return to pacing, return to their endless routine. And he breathes again, relaxes again, sleeps again, until the next time, until the next check, until the next reminder that he's not alone, has never been alone, will never be alone in this house. Because houses remember, houses keep what they're given. And some people never leave, never move on, never accept that their time is over. They stay, they persist, they continue. In basements, on stairs, in spaces they occupied so fully in life that death couldn't separate them, couldn't move them, couldn't end their claim. He understands now, understands what he bought. Not just a house, not just a structure, but a shared space, a place with a permanent resident, a tenant who was there first, who will be there last, who can never be evicted, never be removed, never be convinced to leave. So he stays, because leaving would mean admitting defeat, would mean accepting that the house isn't his, will never be his, belongs to someone else. Someone who died but didn't depart, who fell but didn't stop, who ended but didn't finish. And maybe that's true of all houses, all homes, all spaces we think we own. Maybe they're all occupied, all claimed, all inhabited by those who came before, who lived fully, who loved deeply, who embedded themselves so completely in the walls and floors and foundations that they couldn't leave, couldn't release, couldn't accept that it was time to go. Maybe we're all sharing, all coexisting, all living alongside presences we can't see, can't acknowledge, can't prove exist, but that make sounds, that move objects, that stand on stairs in darkness, that breathe outside our doors late at night. Maybe every footstep we hear, every creak, every unexplained sound, maybe those aren't the house settling, aren't pipes expanding, aren't random vibrations. Maybe they're the others, the ones who stayed, the ones who remain, the ones who share our spaces whether we know it or not. He knows now. He hears them. He acknowledges them. He respects their claim. And in return they let him stay. Let him pretend the house is his. Let him maintain the fiction of ownership. While understanding, while knowing, while accepting the truth. The house was never his, will never be his, belongs to the one who died there, who stayed there, who walks there still, every night, every hour, every moment, pacing the basement, climbing the stairs, checking the rooms, maintaining their presence, their claim, their eternal occupancy. He's just the one who pays the mortgage, who keeps the lights on, who maintains the structure. He's not the owner, not the resident, not the one who truly lives there. He's the guest, the temporary occupant, the one who will eventually leave, while they will stay, forever, always, endlessly walking those basement floors, those wooden stairs, that space they claimed so fully in life that death was just an inconvenience, just a transition, just a change in state that didn't end their tenancy, didn't break their lease, didn't release their hold. The house is theirs, always was, always will be, and everyone else, everyone who buys it, who lives there, who thinks they own it, they're just passing through, just temporary, just visitors in a space that belongs to the dead, to the stayed, to the ones who refused to leave. And somewhere, in some house, in some basement, in some space you think is empty, someone is walking, someone is pacing, someone is continuing their routine, their work, their life, undeterred by death, unaffected by change, uninterested in leaving. And maybe they're in your house, your basement, your space, walking while you sleep, moving while you're gone, standing outside your door late at night, breathing, waiting, checking, making sure you understand, making sure you respect, making sure you know that the house isn't yours, that you're sharing, that you'll never truly be alone. Because houses remember, spaces hold, and some residents, some tenants, some occupants, they never leave, never move out, never accept eviction. They stay, forever, always, eternally present, endlessly walking, perpetually claiming their space, their home, their eternal residence. And you're just visiting, just passing through, just temporarily allowed, until you too leave, until you too go, until you too accept that the house was never yours, that ownership is fiction, that the true residents are the ones who stayed, who remain, who walk those floors long after everyone else is gone. Listen carefully tonight. In your house, your apartment, your space, and you might hear them, the footsteps, the movements, the sounds of someone else, someone who was there before, someone who'll be there after, someone who shares your space whether you acknowledge them or not. They're always there, always walking, always present, in basements, on stairs, in rooms you think are empty, spaces you think are yours, houses you think you own, but you don't own them. You never did. You're just the current tenant, the temporary guest, the one who pays bills while the real residents continue their endless routines, their eternal occupancy, their permanent claim. And one day you'll leave, one day you'll go, one day the house will pass to someone else, and they'll hear the footsteps too, they'll see the shadows, they'll find the objects moved, and they'll wonder, they'll question, they'll slowly understand that houses are never empty, spaces are never truly vacant, and the dead don't leave, they just wait, wait for the next occupant, wait for the next guest, wait for the next person foolish enough to think they own what can never truly be owned. The basement, the stairs, the space between, that belongs to them, always has, always will, and everyone else is just visiting, just sharing, just temporarily allowed, until they too join the permanent residents, until they too stay, until they too refuse to leave, adding their footsteps to the chorus, their presence to the collection, Their claim to the endless occupation of spaces that remember, that hold, that keep, forever, outro. And so we've reached the end. 2 stories. 2 different encounters with spaces that don't quite follow the rules we expect. Places where time isn't constant. Where presence isn't singular. Where boundaries between states become thin enough to cross. To slip through. To lose yourself in. The woman who lost time learned that consciousness is more fragile than we think. That we can't trust our own continuity. That awareness isn't guaranteed. Isn't permanent. Can leave and return and we'd never know the difference. The man who shares his house learned that space has memory. That occupation creates claims deeper than ownership. That some residents never leave. Never accept endings. Never release their hold on the places they inhabited so completely. Both of them continue. Both adapt. Both live with their knowledge. Their certainty. Their understanding that the world contains more than normal perception allows. Than comfortable belief accepts. Than rational thought permits. And maybe that's enough. Maybe knowing is sufficient. Maybe accepting the strangeness. The impossibility. The quiet horror of spaces and states that shouldn't exist but do. Maybe that acceptance is all we can offer. All we can manage. All we can achieve. Thank you for listening. For staying. For letting these stories unfold at their own pace. In their own way. Without rush. Without panic. Just steady revelation of uncomfortable truths. Sleep now if you can. Rest if you're able. Let the rain continue its work. Let it wash away the immediate edge of fear. Let it create distance between you and what you've heard. But remember. Remember that time can slip. That houses hold more than furniture. That the spaces you inhabit might be shared. That consciousness might not be as solid as you think. Remember. And wonder. And question. And notice. Notice the sounds in your house tonight. Notice if time feels right. Notice if you're truly alone. Notice if this moment is continuous with the last. Notice if you've been here all along. Or if you just arrived. Just returned. Just slipped back into a body that's been living without you. Notice. And accept. That certainty is fiction. That safety is temporary. That the boundaries we trust are thinner than we know. The rain falls. The night continues. And somewhere. In spaces we can't see. In states we can't access. In houses we think we own. Something walks. Something waits. Something continues its endless routine. And we pretend not to notice. Pretend it's nothing. Pretend we're alone. Pretend we're present. Pretend we're safe. But we know better now. We've heard the stories. We understand the truth. And that understanding, that knowledge, that stays with us, haunts us, reminds us, that nothing is quite as it seems, that nowhere is truly safe, that no one is ever completely alone. Sleep well, if you can, and may your dreams be gentler than the truths we've explored tonight. The rain will continue. It always does. Constant. Reliable. Real. Let it be enough. Let it be comfort. Let it be the thing you trust when everything else becomes questionable. Good night.